Miller Park on a beautiful day to tailgate. The fans getting ready for the first of a 3-game series as the Milwaukee Brewers take on the Chicago White Sox. A thriller yesterday at Miller Park. Martin Maldonado with 3 hits, including the game winner in the 11th inning in a 3-2 victory against the Chicago Cubs. And now the White Sox are in town. Jose Abreu, the American League Rookie of the Year last year, and those 6 home runs leading the White Sox here early on in 2015. Good evening from Miller Park. Alongside Bill Schroeder, I'm Matt LePay. Sophia Minert is our reporter tonight. And let's start, Rock, with Martin Maldonado. What a day he had, both at the plate and behind the plate. He was making things happen.
I love talking about catchers. You know, Martin Maldonado, ever since Lucroy went on the disabled list back on April 21st, he has caught and started just about every game, all but 2. And you always know how good he's going to be behind home plate. He was able to throw at a base runner in yesterday's game. I don't know if too many catchers with a better release and a bit more accurate than Martin Maldonado. Even with the pink catching gear, the pink trim, Maldonado, a very good fastball hitter. He showed it a couple of times yesterday. He got the home run to get the Brewers on the board to tie the ball game. And then in the bottom of the 11th with 1 out, able to drive one over the head in right field. And the Brewers able to get a walk-off victory. That goes a long way when you're part-time players, guys like Herrera who hit a home run, Maldonado, when they get involved, it makes everybody feel good on that bench.
Yeah, a little Mother's Day magic reminiscent of Bill Hall. This time it was Maldonado. Not a homer to win it, but a hit to win it, and that's what matters. As for the White Sox, Jose Abreu, obviously they're a big player from a year ago, the American League Rookie of the Year, as we take a look at our T-Mobile game changer. He had 36 homers last year, Rock, more than 100 RBIs, and there you see what he has done since the beginning of last year. If the White Sox are to get into the mix, you figure this guy's going to have a lot to do with it.
Well, it's one of those things where, you know, Abreu was always going to get his. I mean, last year, 36 home runs, 107 RBIs. He hit over 300, but you got to be able to control the guys in front of him in the order. Adam Eaton, Melky Cabrera. You know, Abreu played 10 years in Cuba, had a .341 career batting average over there and 178 RBIs in 10 seasons. So this guy is the real deal. Matter of just controlling the guys around him in that batting order. All of a sudden, this White Sox ball club, after a very slow start, these guys are starting to swing the bats. Coming in, the fewest home runs in all the American League. That's not going to last forever with guys like Abreu in that starting lineup.
We're getting ready to go. Game 1 of this 3-game series start the work week. The Brewers and the White Sox. What a memorable first week for Brewers manager Craig Counsell. Sophia Minert will review the week that was for the Brewers skipper as we continue on Fox Sports Wisconsin.
Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places. And by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. Interleague play comes to Miller Park here in Milwaukee. We are getting set for the series opener between the Chicago White Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. And just 1 week ago, Craig Counsell was introduced as the manager of the Brewers. And what a memorable week it has been for Counsell and crew. Just 1 week ago, Monday, Ryan Braun came up with the game winner in a come-from-behind win against the Los Angeles Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw. Yesterday, how about a Mother's Day walk-off? Just what Mom wanted. Martin Maldonado delivered the game winner yesterday, along with a home run, capping off what has been a wild week for Craig Counsell in just his first week as the manager of the crew. And yeah, he certainly has this team going in the right direction. They have gone 4-3 since Counsell took over as manager of the Brewers. And while he said he's had a fun challenge of turning this team around and getting them to play the way that they're capable of doing, he's also asking his players to respond to the daily challenge of bringing the focus and competition necessary to win. And so far, he likes how his team has responded in the first week.
The great thing about games like yesterday is that their team wins, and you get guys that, aren't your big guys helping you. And I think that just lifts everybody up. I think you take pressure off, some guys, and other guys know that they're helping and doing their job and feeling a part of it. And I think that's the big thing that games like yesterday do.
Well, the Brewers have seen a lift in play since Craig Counsell took over a week ago. You see the numbers there. Runners in scoring position, 400 there. They've also drawn plenty of walks, home runs back for the Brewers, tied for second with 11. And also the run production has gone up along with the home runs, fifth in the last week with 37. Coming up, Craig Counsell and Jerry Augustine, they'll take a look at today's starters. Willie Peralta goes for back-to-back wins after snapping his losing streak. He will face the White Sox. Jeff Samardzija will break it down for you coming up next from Miller Park.
In his last start on Wednesday, a great one against the Dodgers, by far his best of the season, 8 strong innings. Craig Counsell, his manager, on Willie's start to the season.
I think Willie's, kind of been in a similar spot to a couple other guys. I think him and Matt have been in kind of in a, pitched similarly this year. he's a ground ball pitcher. We got to make plays behind him. But I thought his last start, he went up against a really good lineup, and he went through them pretty good. So he has that ability to do that, and he has the ability to consistently do that, start in and start out.
Craig and Augie back with you as we get closer to first pitch here on Fox Sports Wisconsin. Time now for our Lowe's Never Stop Improving. And you look at what Willie Peralta was able to do in his last start. Needs to carry that over and continue to be the Willie of old.
Yeah, there's no question about it. When you think about Willie Peralta, we all know he has that great command. He's got the good fastball, sinking fastball, and breaking ball. But when you talk about Willie in his first few starts, as opposed to the way he's thrown the ball lately, it's about location and getting ahead of hitters. And when he does that, he finds that comfort level. He gets that comfort level, and what he does, he throws strikes and gets ahead. He's got the stuff to be a big-time winner. When he gets there, locate, find the comfort level, he does very well.
Well, he finally got there in the last start. That 8 innings, go deep in the ballgame, only give up a couple of earned runs and no walks in that one.
Well, he pitched really well with that fastball. He's got that four-seam fastball that he can ride up in his zone, and he's got that good heavy sinking fastball. He got ahead with that. Then he started using that breaking ball and the changeup. He puts it all together. He finds that comfort level. He's very good.
So Willie Peralta tonight ready to go up against a familiar foe in Jeff Samardzija. Of course, the Brewers faced him plenty of times when he was a member of the Chicago Cubs. They traded him to Oakland. Then he ends up back in Chicago now with the White Sox. And you see his numbers this season on the road, not nearly as effective as he has been at home. And that's kind of the storyline, though, of how the White Sox season has gone. Now, what are we looking for from Jeff Samardzija, who, by the way, is just coming back after serving a 5-game suspension for the brawl that the Royals and the White Sox had earlier this year?
Well, when you think of Jeff Samardzija, you think of power. He's got that power fastball that he could throw from 90 to 98. He's got a four-seam and a good two-seam fastball. He's got swing-and-miss type splitter that he throw from occasion. But the real key to him is his off-speed stuff. When he can get the fastball over the plate, use the off-speed and command that and locate it, he's a very tough pitcher to beat.
So how do you explain this? For as many times as he's faced the Brewers as a starter, his record is 0-5. His ERA is 4.5.
I'll tell you one thing. He's had a hard time getting ahead of hitters against the Brewers, locating the fastball, but he can't get the breaking stuff over. He can't get the off-speed, the secondary pitches over. The Brewers have been able to take advantage of him, and that's why he's 0-4 against the Brewers.
Well, Ryan Braun's going to bat second tonight for the Brewers for the first time in his career, and he's put up some very impressive numbers in his career against Jeff Samardzija. That might be one reason, some more plate appearances for Ryan Braun, but he's also on a 5-game hitting streak right now. He's found his groove.
I'll tell you one thing you're seeing out of Ryan Braun. You're starting to see a very patient hitter that understands the strike zone, doesn't try to do too much. You see him hitting the ball the other way. When you see Ryan Braun swinging the bat, driving the ball the opposite way, he's seen the ball better, and he's putting a lot better swings on it, and he's proving it in the last few games.
The other significant part of the lineup is Carlos Gomez is not leading off tonight. He's actually batting in the cleanup role. Maybe not as effective at the top of the order as he could be now, maybe with some guys on base.
Well, he's aggressive at the plate, and he's always going to be that way. And the one thing he does, he's been swinging a bat and getting some big-time hits. He can cause trouble for the other ball club. It doesn't make any difference where it is in the order. He's just one of those guys, can hit for power. He has that great speed, and he can hit for average and drive in runs.
This would be an interesting lineup to look at. Matt and Rock will show you that when we come back. Just about ready to start baseball here. Big Willie trying to get interleague schedule off to a positive start here tonight.
drive deep left field. This game is tied. Herrera fly ball, and the Brewers take the lead. Back-to-back home runs. It is. Brewers win it. Maldonado ends the game for the Brewers. It was a thriller yesterday afternoon. Let's find out together what's in store tonight as the Brewers and Willie Peralta getting ready to begin a 3-game series with the Chicago White Sox. Brewers baseball on Fox Sports Wisconsin, presented by Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. Book your stay now. We're going to close up the roof here tonight. Keep it nice and comfortable here at Miller Park as we get ready to continue this homestand for the Brew Crew, coming off 2 out of 3 against the Chicago Cubs. And now the White Sox, led by Robin Ventura, his 4th year as the manager of the Southsiders. Had a winning record his first year. Last year won 73 games. That marked a 10-game improvement over 2013. A little rebuild mode going on with the White Sox. Here is the White Sox batting order presented by Potawatomi. Adam Eaton, Melky Cabrera, and Jose Abreu at the top. Avi Garcia hits cleanup. Connor Gillespie, Alexi Ramirez, followed by the catcher, the veteran Giovanni Soto. Micah Johnson will play second. Jeff Smarja has to hit. He's on the mound against Willie Peralta.
Well, Willie real good his last time out against the Dodgers here at Miller Park. A win, his first of the season. 8 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned. A very good start for Willie. He's had 3 consecutive quality starts and has never faced the Chicago White Sox in his brief career. Let's check out the Menards defense. Going to be a bit of a challenge for Gerardo Parra in left. The sun beaming through those glass panels above the stands along the first baseline. Gomez in center, Braun in right, Herrera, Gomez, Hector Gomez at short, Jeanette and Lind on the right side, and Maldonado. Big day yesterday behind home plate.
It's that glare you're talking about, Rock. That's what Gerardo Parra is going to have to deal with here, at least in the early portion of this game. But the way he's played the outfield, I think he's ready to handle that and anything else that may come his way tonight. As we are set to go, Brewers and White Sox. Been a while since these two clubs have hooked up, but here they are for the next 3 games at Miller Park. Adam Eaton will lead things off for Chicago, a team coming off winning 2 out of 3. U.S. Cellular Field over the weekend against Cincinnati. We are underway here in Milwaukee. They were rained out on Friday. They played a doubleheader Saturday. And like the Brewers yesterday, the White Sox were winners in walk-off fashion. Gordon Beckham with a game-winning single. It's like Martin Maldonado in the 11th inning. And there's a ground ball. That's Hector Gomez. Gets an early opportunity, and the throw is high.
Now the last thing you need to do is give these guys extra outs. They've been swinging the bats well after a very slow start. That'll be an error on Hector. He has got a cannon over there at shortstop and just a little high. And Lind not able to come down on time.
So an error to begin the game here, and Eugene Segura, no doubt supporting his teammates at the end of this inning. Melky Cabrera settles in now for the White Sox. As Rock said, this White Sox team is hitting the ball better of late. It really got off to a slow start in that regard. But in the last 5 games as a team, hitting nearly 300, 292. And some of that power is coming back too, which was missing, or you could say non-existent, in a 9-game stretch without a home run. But Ventura's team starting to come around, or at least show signs of that. And if they're going to be a powerful team, it's going to be led by that guy who's on deck, Jose Abreu.
Yeah, that's why you got to keep the first 2 off the bases before that guy comes up. Talked about the power surge for the White Sox. They're still dead last in the American League in home runs, only 19. 3rd fewest in all of baseball. Kind of a surprise.
Yeah, very much so. It's a pace that would have the White Sox at its lowest total since 1992. 0-1 the count to Cabrera. And there's a bouncing ball. Chance for two. They get the tag one on the first two.
Nice. Well, he calling Adam Eaton for being out of the baseline.
Yeah, there it is. And you're right. Scooter Gennett trying to apply the tag, and
your direct path to the base, you had 3 feet to go either way. That was pretty close. Let's see how far out of the way he gets. Looks like he missed him, but boy, that's a pretty close play. And Scooter able to get the double play. See the direct line? Is that 3 feet? I don't know if it is or not. Brewers get the benefit of the doubt. And the double play turned.
And Robin Ventura contesting. Mark Ripperger, the second base umpire here. Because it really seemed close as to whether Gennett might have been able to get him just at the very end of his glove. But they are, whatever the case, out of the baseline, they're going to call the runner out. So just like that, a double play.
It appears that Scooter misses him ever so slightly, but second base umpire Mark Ripperger says that Eaton was out of the baseline. That was close.
Yeah, I agree. As it is, double play, bases empty for Jose Abreu, and that's just the way you want to face him, with the bases empty. Mentioned this is a team that is not hitting home runs, last in the American League. Only the Marlins and Phillies have hit fewer long balls than the 19 that the Sox have hit. But Abreu has hit 6 this season, coming off a 36 home run season a year ago.
And 107 RBIs, over 300. After 10 years in Cuba, putting up some monster numbers.
And the home run totals started to slow down in the final couple of months of the season, but he was still able to get on base with regularity. Just had a very, very good year, a terrific year at the plate. Hit .317 as a matter of fact. Of the 36 homers, 25 of them came before the end of June. Ball, 2 strikes. The White Sox first baseman.
Yeah, Willie picking up a 6-3 victory. Brewers finally scoring him some runs, but it's still one of the lowest run support numbers in all of baseball. Just a touch over 2 runs a game. Well, he's been out on the mound.
Abreu with a ground ball to third. That's Herrera with the long throw, and it's in time, and that'll do it for the White Sox here in the first. So a good start for Peralta. As the Sox are set down, now the Brewers go to work. Jeff Samardzija tonight. Craig Counsell beginning his second full week as Brewers manager. 4-3 so far. A couple of thrilling wins along the way. Here's the Brewer batting order presented by Potawatomi. Gerardo Parra at the top tonight, followed by Ryan Braun and Adam Lind. Carlos Gomez moves to cleanup with Scooter Gennett's batting fifth. Martin Maldonado, and then Herrera, Hector Gomez, and Willie Peralta against Jeff Samardzija.
Yeah, base season for Jeff Samardzija in the big leagues. The first 7 plus with the Cubs. He finished the season last year with Oakland, signed as a free agent in the offseason. Making start number 8 against Milwaukee and appearance number 23.
And his record against Milwaukee leaves a lot to be desired. In fact, as a starter, he's 0-5. His overall record 2-6 against the Brewers. Gerardo Parra in the leadoff spot tonight. Craig Counsell shuffling the lineup. You see Carlos Gomez hitting cleanup. Interesting look here this evening. Parra checks in, 276.
Yeah, Parra's starting to swing the bat a little bit more consistently. He's been getting some playing time, and it's been showing. With that batting average up there, he homered in the last series against Chicago.
Took one off the leg that he needs to walk off here.
Craig Counsell, not a big believer that it's so important to have that 1 through 8 consistent. You got to mix and match a little bit. The one thing that I've noticed about his lineup, he likes to stagger the righties and lefties, right, left, right, or vice versa, to make it a little bit more difficult with the matchups late in the game.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch in this game, and especially so here, obviously with the Brewers, with the new manager, and you get a feel for how he likes to do things. And Counsell at his introductory news conference last week said, sometimes we don't make too big of a deal about lineups and who's hitting where. And here's Parra just foul down the line.
Yeah, really, after the first time through, it doesn't matter, does it?
No, he's saying, Counsell at his news conference last week was saying, look, I'm just trying to put the lineup together every night that gives this team the best chance to win. Sometimes it's easy, especially in today's world, to get all wound up about whether someone's hitting first, fourth, or eighth. And Counsell's just trying to find ways to win baseball games. And there's a tough short hop that gets by the second baseman, Micah Johnson. And Gerardo Parra is on to begin the bottom of the first.
And that's when the other issue for the White Sox for defense. I'm not sure how that's going to be scored, but one of the highest error totals in the American League. They've got 22 errors. As we take a look at the Menards White Sox defense, Cabrera, Eaton, and Garcia in the outfield. All three of them throw the baseball very well. Gillespie, Ramirez, Johnson, and Abreu from third to first, and the former Cub Giovanni Soto behind home plate.
Micah Johnson, the rookie, it is ruled to hit. And Ryan Braun, who has had a ton of success in his at-bats against Jeff Samardzija, steps in.
They have another shuffle with Braun in the number 2 spot. So this kind of rolling the dice a little bit is Craig Counsell, trying to find a combination that he likes.
First time this year he's hit second, like Parra. First time this year he has led off. Braun has gone deep on Samardzija a couple of times and 18 at bats. Parra on the move, pitch taken, throw down to second, no chance. Parra with the stolen base.
Yeah, you can run on the Chicago catchers, Tyler Flowers and Giovanni Soto. That throw not even close. A good lead, a decent jump, head down, and no contest at second base. That and the fact that Samardzija takes a while to get rid of it. It's got that high leg kick.
Yeah, with Samardzija on the mound, base runners have been caught just once, stealing successfully 7 times, and the exact same numbers with Giovanni Soto. That's the combo that you can count on when Samardzija's on the mound. Soto will be behind the plate. The Brewers coming off a thrilling extra inning victory against the Cubs. Second time they have taken a series from the Cubbies. Weekend before at Wrigley Field. 2 out of 3 here at Miller Park after dropping the opener on Friday night. Braun with a bouncer to short, and Alexi Ramirez boots it. Runners at the corners. Error.
Man, a little shaky out there. Robin Ventura can't be happy about that. Good at bat for Braun. He didn't get a hit, I realize, but he was able to advance Parra to third base And that is just a clank out there at short. Heel of the glove, just couldn't hold on to it, and Brawny's safe at first.
That is his 5th error of the year. A couple of years ago, he really struggled in that area. In fact, had more errors than any other shortstop in the American League. 22 back in 2013. Here's Adam Lind. Comes in with a slugging percentage that ranks 6th in the National League, .579. Lind hitting 3rd tonight. A chance for an RBI. There's a bouncing ball to Micah Johnson. They'll flip to Ramirez for the force. A run will score. They get the out at 2nd, and the Brewers are first on the board.
Well, take advantage of opportunities when you get them. That's what the Brewers did in yesterday's game. That was one of the best games of the year yesterday. Just well played on both sides. Good pitching. Pretty good fundamentals and timely hitting for the Crew.
Yeah, and how about the back-to-back home runs that tied and then gave the Brewers the lead with Martin Maldonado and Elian Herrera. The Cubs battled back, and it was Maldonado with the game winner. 3 hits for the Brewers catcher yesterday. Here's Carlos Gomez in the cleanup spot. Part of the versatility of Gomez. You can lead him off. You get him at the top of the order. Someone who can run. But as everyone knows, there's power in that bat and the opportunity to put him in the 4 spot, and that's just what Craig Counsell is doing tonight. And there's a drive hit back deep into center field, and it's gone. Carlos Gomez, a 2-run blast, and it's 3-0 Milwaukee.
Well, that's why you put him in the number 4 spot, right? He hits the home run this time with somebody on. Gomez got an off-speed pitch. Weighted back nicely. Watch the way that one hangs. That one up around the belt, and Carlos Gomez with that big hack able to get all of it. 3-0 Brewers.
Powerball home run count number 2 for Carlos Gomez. Sweet swing, and he knew it when he hit it. 3-0 lead early on for the Crew, and here's Scooter Gennett.
Yeah, Samardzija coming in 2-2. He's thrown well in 3 of his last 4 starts. He had a hiccup in there against the Orioles. 7 earned runs in 5 innings, but 3 of the last 4 pretty good.
There's a bouncing ball to Micah Johnson. 2 men out of the first.
A .438 earned run average for Samardzija coming in. And that's going to go up after this first inning.
Smiles early on in that Brewers dugout. Gomez a 2-run homer. Choppy defense here from the White Sox in the first inning. The Brewers jump on it. Here's Martin Maldonado. His 18th start in the Crew's last 20 games. 3 weeks ago tonight, Jonathan Lucroy suffered that broken toe on a foul tip. And with just 2 exceptions, it has been Maldonado's show behind the plate. And he lays one down, charging Gillespie. Barehand pick, and throws him out. Good play by Gillespie as Maldonado trying to reach via the bunt, but the Brewers getting runs via some power. 2-run shot from Gomez hitting cleanup tonight and showing why as the Brewers have the early lead. Casino. Carlos Gomez batting cleanup tonight. 2-run homer in the first, helping the Brewers to this 3-0 lead early on here in Milwaukee. 4, 5, and 6 hitters coming up for Chicago. And we'll start with the right fielder, Avisail Garcia. Avi, they call him.
It's a lot easier.
It's a heck of a lot easier. And he's enjoying a good start. This White Sox team, he's in the top 10 in the American League in batting average with that 327 mark. And just happy to be out there on a regular basis. He was hurt early last season diving for a ball in right. Missed a good chunk of the year. The torn labrum. The year before with the Tigers, he was hurt very early on before being sent over to Chicago. And he's one of those players that a lot of folks in baseball believe can be very good in all areas. Just keep him on the field.
And he's got a terrific throwing arm out there in right field.
And there you see, mentioned he is 8th in the American League and by far the leading hitter on this team. And Rock was mentioning his good arm in right. He already has 6 assists to lead the American League in that area. There's a roller to short. Hector Gomez needs to hurry and gets it there just in time. Out number 1.
Wait a little bit too long. Robin Ventura is going to step out of the dugout and give his guys in the clubhouse a chance to take a look at that. Laid back a little bit too much on that, did Hector, relying on that big throwing arm. Well, that's bang, bang.
Thinking maybe not enough for.
Yeah, that's about as close as it gets.
Yeah.
They're not going to review it.
So out number 1 here in the second. Hector Gomez with that strong arm. Get the start over at short here tonight.
Yeah, second start over at shortstop for Hector.
He's had 9 starts over at second and a couple at third. There's Connor Gillespie.
Just a day off for Gene Segura. Nothing wrong with him. Great counsel figuring he's going to give him today off and give Hector a chance. Gene's been swinging the bat well.
Darnell Coles, a hitting coach, visiting with him right now. Gillespie comes in, 246. Originally a first-round pick of the Giants back in 08. Traded to the White Sox a couple of years ago. Good season last year at 282. Good season at the plate in 130 games. He gets the call at third tonight.
Yeah, no Gordon Beckham, no Adam LaRoche. 2 pretty good offensive players that the White Sox are without tonight. Of course, you can't play both Abreu and LaRoche, both first basemen, both DHs.
Yep, National League rules here, so Ventura does not have the DH option. Beckham had the walk-off single yesterday in their win against Cincinnati. The White Sox come in 12-16. They're 6.5 games behind Kansas City. The Sox have not traveled well at all. They have dropped 11 of their first 13 games away from U.S. Cellular Field.
And they've only played 28 games. And the Brewers are playing game number 33.
Beauty of the roof.
Nice to have a roof, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
No rain out. Nice and warm in here.
Some of the Chicago folks were commenting on that. They knew they had some choppy weather all across the Midwest, including Chicago over the weekend, but they knew it's game on tonight and tomorrow and Wednesday as well.
Important for the players, even more important for the fans that want to come down and watch games.
Without a doubt. Come here, you can enjoy your tailgating and then come on in and you know you have baseball. Full count now to Connor Gillespie as Willie Peralta for the second straight game getting early run support. Of course, the run support issue has certainly been an issue with Peralta, as Rock mentioned a little while ago, only averaging about 2 runs per start, but In his last start against the Dodgers, the Brewers put 5 up in the first inning and 3 on the board tonight. Peralta ready with a payoff to Connor Gillespie. Got him swinging.
Guys, the chase went out of the zone in 97. Yeah, it does pretty good when he gets some runs. You don't even need that many, 3 or more. Look at the record, 15-1.
Just a little help.
Look at Greinke. Cueto, wow.
Yeah, that's not bad. The Brewers have 3 here in the. We're scored 3 in the bottom of the first as we move on to the top of the second inning. And here's Alexi Ramirez. And a ground ball to short. Hector Gomez. 1-2-3 inning for Willie Peralta. Let's start again for Peralta as the Brewers lead 3-0. And now for our Carsoup.com trivia question. Who are the 5 original teams to compete in the American League Central Division? The 5 original teams to compete in the American League Central. It's a good question. I got caught on that. I was talking with the great Brian Mikulajic, who among his hundreds of thousands of duties was filling me in on a couple of nuggets. And there was one that I had forgotten about.
Oh, so you've seen the question before.
Well, yeah, it was some other little tidbits he was passing along. It
must be a play-by-play guy thing.
Well, Herrera pops out on a grab by Ramirez. No, it was BMIC, a walking encyclopedia of sports knowledge, as you well know.
And shares it with you and BA all the time, doesn't he?
I think in my case, he knows I need a lot of help. So, he said, "Hey, Matt, you got a minute?" But it's a little history lesson involved in the Carsoup.com trivia question tonight. He just assumes you knew all this stuff.
That's a bad assumption. I think I know that one, though.
Oh, 1 pitch to Hector Gomez. We mentioned getting the start at short. A week ago tonight, he hit his first big league homer against Clayton Kershaw. Also tripled against him. It was game 1 as manager for Craig Counsell, and a couple of thrilling wins last week for the Brewers, including that come from behind effort against the Dodgers. And yesterday, the extra inning win against the Cubs. You see the Brewers here, they've won 2 series and they have split one in the middle, the 4-game set with the Dodgers. And that is sharply hit and a base hit for Hector Gomez.
Yeah, almost coming off his feet to get on top of that high fastball. Well, the more you see this young man play, the more you like him. Hector Gomez. Sometimes relies on his arm a little bit too much, but check it out. Really concentrating on getting on top of that high heater at 94 miles an hour. Smart to get it up there at about 95, 96 once in a while. Cruising speed about 93, but he'll throw a cutter. He's got a splitter and a slider. And Hector all over that fastball.
And Samardzija will check him as Willie Peralta is at the plate. Willie got robbed of extra bases in his last outing. Jock Peterson ran one down deep in center field. Bunting situation here. That was one you talked about it, Rocky. When he's swinging away, he's not going to get cheated, and made pretty good contact. Thought for a moment he may have had a home run or at least extra bases, but it was a terrific play up against the wall by Peterson.
Yeah, hit it one of the deepest part of the ballpark, you know, just to the left side of center field.
Peralta trying to move the runner up a base here. Limited playing time for Gomez. No stolen bases yet, or attempts yet. And Peralta lays it down. Nicely done. The play is at first. 2 outs. Hector Gomez advances. We're back to the top of the order. That's where Gerardo Parra hits tonight. He started that 3-run first. Had a single, a sharply hit ball that went off the second baseman Micah Johnson. Trickled into right field.
Yeah, 6th successful sacrifice bunt by the Brewers pitching staff. They're doing a decent job in that regard when they get a chance.
Talked about it yesterday on Brewers Live pregame, and it's worth bringing up again too. The Brewers in the last now 14 games have been very good with runners in scoring position, hitting at a .383 clip. Those first couple of weeks, and this was a team that was barely better than 200 in that area.
2 for 5 yesterday, including that big hit by Maldonado in the bottom of the 11th walk-off.
Yeah, Joe Madden trying to go with a 5-man infield. Maldonado drove one over the right fielder. Game over. And Parra shoots one right center field to the gap. Off the wall. A run will score. Parra, RBI double.
Oh, it's such a nice, easy swing by Parra. Only 2 for 2, driving in Hector Gomez. So the bottom of the order setting the table. Peralta does his job by advancing him, and boy, Samardzija got a lot of the plate with that, out over the plate, and look at the swing. Nice and easy, stayed right in there and able to find the gap out in right center.
Gerardo Parra 2 for 2 tonight. Here's Ryan Braun, reached on an error, charged to Alexi Ramirez in the first. As Jeff Samardzija getting roughed up here again. He has just had all kinds of trouble when he faces the Brewers. A 2-6 career record, 0-5 as a starter. Braun with a bouncing ball. Ramirez can't get it. And Parra, a little stop and go around third. He'll get in easily. Make it 5-0 Milwaukee.
Well, I can't imagine why Ramirez couldn't keep that at least in the infield. Boy, you got to get down and dive. Robin Ventura's got to be furious in that dugout the way his infield has been playing so far. You got to knock that down at least. Good for the Brewers that he didn't. Not sure why he kind of alligator armed it, but you got to knock it down, keep the run from scoring. He didn't do that, so Parra comes around to score. Not very good defense so far by this White Sox infield.
No, you're right. I think Samardzija's having a lot of trouble, but he's not getting much in the way of help. The Brewers say thanks a lot. Here's Adam Lind.
Well, you're taught, in the middle of the infield, anywhere in the infield for that matter, you got a man in scoring position at second base. 2 outs, do whatever you can to just knock it down. You don't have to get the out necessarily, but you got to keep it in the infield to keep the run from scoring. Not a very good play.
Well, 1 pitch to Lind, fouls it back. So the Brewers putting runs on the board, getting a little help along the way. And they'll gladly take that. 5-0 lead early on. I think it was Samardzija. He was an all-star last year with the Cubs. His record was 2-7, but that was deceiving with a poor team. His ERA was 2.83. But he was traded from the Cubs to the A's before the All-Star game, so he sat in the American League dugout in an A's uniform, but earned a spot as a National Leaguer. And he strikes out Adam Lind, and that'll do it for the Brewers. But they put 2 more on the board, and after 2, it's 5-0 Milwaukee.
And Casino. The Brewers off to a 5-0 lead as we start the top of the third, and we are here now with Cecilia Gore, the Brewers executive director of the Brewers Community Foundation. And Cecilia, it's a big week. We've got the Ultimate Auction happening online. How does the Ultimate Auction help support BCF and the more than 200 organizations that you support?
Well, we have 14 items here that people can bid on to help us raise money. We support about 200 organizations annually in the areas of health, education, recreation, and basic needs. So it's a big help for us. This is our 5th year, and I think it's a lot of fun.
It is always a lot of fun. There are some terrific Brewers experiences, 14 unique experiences that you can bid on online. And Cecilia, we were talking, there's a really unique opportunity here to do make and paint pottery with Scooter Jeanette, but what other awesome opportunities are there for fans?
Well, the one I like is home plate dinner package, where you can have the whole Miller Park Stadium to yourself and have a very nice romantic dinner at home plate. I think it could be a fun night.
All right, well, there's plenty for fans to bid on here, the BCF Ultimate Auction. The deadline is tomorrow night, 11:59, so make sure you get your bids in. And Rock, you'll be happy to hear Fantasy Camp right now is the big ticket, but Grab Grub with Brian and Bill right now is under $1,000. I don't think there's a price you can put on this, so I think we need to up the ante a little bit here and get some people here for dinner.
Yeah, we're going to lay in the weeds a little bit. We're going to let it go. We're going to start about the 5th inning and start add some things. Don't be surprised you're not going to be involved, Matty.
Yeah, I'm talking to BA yesterday. I think he wants to turn this into a big deal now.
Yeah, Sophia, Augie, Davey, Craig.
Absolutely.
Come on, everybody's got to get involved.
All in.
Great cause. Boy, they do some great work in the community.
Got that right. We'll be checking that board here throughout the course of the evening. Well, fantasy camp stuff. I still have to work out that basketball schedule next winter. I got to get free, get out there. Yeah,
I'll give you a good deal.
Go out there and get hurt. That's what, my old body out there. That would be a lot of fun. There you go. Check that out.
Now, where was that picture taken? I guess spring training. Got the hat on. Well, the fantasy camp package for 2016. That's January 31st to February 7th. That's a $4,500 value.
No kidding.
That's the price to get the fantasy camp. All inclusive, includes everything, including adult beverages after the game. And I emphasize after the games.
I need a bye in the Badgers schedule, or maybe they'll just say bye to me and I'll go out there.
You know what you do? Have BA fill in for you for once.
Hey, there you go. That's a good idea. I have to call him on that real quick. Jeff Samardzija getting an at-bat. Of course, this is not totally unfamiliar territory to him with the years with the Cubs. Matter of fact, as you see, he's hit a couple of home runs. One of those came against the Brewers.
Yeah, Willie's got it going on so far tonight. I mean, he's got a good fastball that has been on the corners. That effortless delivery. It looks like he doesn't even break a sweat out there sometimes. He was throwing 97 miles an hour his last start in the 8th inning against the Dodgers.
And he punches out Jeff Samardzija here. So a couple of strikeouts for Willie Peralta in the 3rd. Brewers lead 5-0. Wisconsin is brought to you by Marshfield Clinic. Don't just live, shine. By Piggly Wiggly, the official supermarket of Fox Sports Wisconsin. And by Hupy and Abraham. 1-800-800-5678. Hupy and Abraham. Tell them you mean business. 5-0 the Crew as you see the middle of the order. That's right. Carlos Gomez hitting cleanup tonight. And showing why in the 1st inning. He went deep. They have him back in the lineup. That was his first home run since April 12th when he took Casey Sadler of the Pirates over the wall. But remember, he's also been on the DL and been banged up here a little bit. Yeah. So you get him out there regularly, and I don't think we'll be looking at gaps like that between home runs.
Yeah, the Brewers are going to be happy when they finally get back to full strength. Waiting for Jonathan Lucroy to come back. Well, the hanging slider from Samardzija, and look at Gomez, jumps all over it, right down the middle of the plate. 3-0.
Definitely is worth another look, courtesy of Columbia St. Mary's. Home run rip there from Gomez. Ball 2 strikes. And the Brewers keep trying to get back to full strength. Ramos Ramirez still not quite ready tonight, so Elian Herrera gets the call at third. Gomez trying to hold and does not. And he's a strikeout victim to begin the bottom of the third.
Now, Craig Counsell wants to be very careful with Ramirez. I mean, getting up there in age, he's 37, and want to make sure that he's completely healthy when he comes back, so he doesn't have to jump back. Or I should say, they don't have to put him on the disabled list. So playing a little bit short-handed. Not sure if he's available today. He's been swinging a little bit. And we'll see as the game goes on.
Scooter Gennett grounded to second in the first inning. So he's not quite a full week back from the rehab assignment following his stint on the disabled list. I know we keep saying it, but we also add that the club has not leaned on the injuries as an excuse, but it's certainly a factor in this team's play in the first 5 weeks, although we should also point out that they've been trending to the better side here in the last week, 8 days or so, as Gennett pops out.
Yeah, they weren't playing very well when everybody was healthy, but it certainly didn't help that they had all those injuries in their effort to get back to normal and try to play some better baseball.
Craig Counsell's talked about a couple of good team wins here of late, including yesterday afternoon. So that was a very entertaining baseball game. Clean, was timely hitting. And comeback power from the bottom of the order with Elian Herrera and Martin Maldonado. Back-to-back homers. Of course, Maldi with the 3-hit day.
Yep, and Herrera gets another start today. It's always good to have contributions out of your bench players. We've been saying that all season, but just good for morale in that dugout in the clubhouse when everybody feels like they're contributing.
Herrera with a couple of home runs this season. Maldonado, a swing and a miss. What he did behind the plate as well is he caught Dexter Fowler trying to run. The Cubs, a very good base running team. Fowler had only been caught once with 8 successful steals, but Maldonado got him a second time yesterday afternoon. Samardzija with a 1-2.
Maldonado's going to throw a lot of base runners if pitchers give him a chance. I don't care who's running. Threw out Billy Hamilton already this year.
He was the first catcher to nab Hamilton. And Maldonado goes down on strikes, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Jeff Samardzija. We are through 3 with the Brewers leading 5-0. Players to watch tonight. See what Adam Lynn's been doing the last couple of weeks. Avi Garcia, the White Sox, off to a terrific start. We saw firsthand Zach Greinke and how good he is. And how about the home run power here of Bryce Harper?
Yeah, sickening, isn't it? I mean, honestly, he's hitting home runs like it's crazy, as many as he's been hitting.
That's when he's done his last 4, but he had a stretch where he had, 6 in a 3-game stretch. A 3-homer game, a 2-homer game, and then a walk-off the following day.
Sickening in a good way.
Yes, if you're the Nationals, absolutely.
Just unbelievable the way he's been hitting him. And no cheapies either. He's hit him in a long way.
Adam Eaton reached on an error charge to Hector Gomez in the first inning. There's Willie Peralta once again with a good start in progress. And Gomez, a diving stop, up the throw, not in time.
Yeah, just too fast. Adam Eaton gets down that line in a hurry. Good effort, though, by Hector Gomez. First hit for the White Sox. Yeah, up the middle, able to get it. And because he's about 6'4", it takes a little bit longer for Hector to get up than it does Gene Segura. That's the advantage that Segura has out there at shortstop. On the ground, up quickly, although Hector didn't take too much time either.
Well, you get a little glimpse of the athleticism and that arm of Hector Gomez. Here's Melky Cabrera. Came over from the Toronto Blue Jays. Had a very good year last year with Toronto. Hit .301. Was very consistent from the start of the season up until about the last month when he broke a finger. Had some good numbers after injury plagued his first year with Toronto.
Yeah, Cabrera, one of the few hitters in this White Sox lineup that have ever seen Willie Peralta before tonight. Adam Eaton and Giovanni Soto, the other.
Yep, 2 for 4. That's it. Number of at-bats that Cabrera has had prior to this game. So he was with the San Francisco Giants prior to going on to Toronto. A ball, 2 strikes to the left fielder for the White Sox. Cabrera signing as a free agent with the Sox back in December. Peralta with a 1-2. Bouncing ball. Gomez. There's 1. There's 2. Double play.
And second one of the night from Milwaukee. I tell you, Hector Gomez, when he throws the baseball, he can break a glove in a hurry.
You almost want to get the radar gun out on him.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a glove right out of the box, play catch with Hector Gomez for about 10 minutes. That baby's going to be ready quickly. Boy, what an arm he's got. Even in slow motion.
It's fun to watch. 2 men out of the 4th with the bases empty for Jose Abreu.
I'd like to have a throwing competition between he and Martin Maldonado.
That would be entertaining. I think the speed would be impressive.
Yeah.
Clocking those guys. Abreu back up the middle. There's Jeanette. And the throw is not in time. Jose Abreu, an infield single.
Yeah, 2 infield hits for the White Sox. That's been it. And not much anybody could do about either one of them. Right up the middle. See Hector Gomez shading toward the hole. And Scooter just not able to get enough on the throw to get him. That's a long throw for a second baseman.
Abreu now with an 8-game hitting streak. Here's Avi Garcia. Grounded to short back in the second inning. Garcia, the start that he has had, the average at 324, has 11 multi-hit games to lead the way for this club. A couple of homers. He has driven in 10.
White Sox are having a difficult time, at least so far, getting underneath these pitches from Peralta. Every one of the outs has been either a strikeout or a ground ball. That power sinker working for him tonight.
His last 3 starts, quality starts, rewarded with the win. Last outing against the Dodgers. A 1-1 to Garcia. Worked 8 innings in that game against the Dodgers. Gave up 3 runs. Only a couple were earned. Before that at Wrigley Field, 6 innings and gave up just the 1 run. It was the game where John Lester was just a bit better in a 1-0 Cubs win. Here's the 1-2. Broken bat, bouncer. Hector Gomez will feed Jeanette, and that'll do it for the White Sox here in the 4th. Still 5-0. Brewers lead the White Sox.
Filling in for Aramis Ramirez, who is missing his 4th straight game with a back injury. But an update on him, he did see the team physician, Dr. William Rosh. He had an MRI done on that back and said it came out good, that he only has a muscle strain, which he is hopeful will last just a few days, and he's hoping to avoid time on the disabled list. So Ramirez saying it's the first time he's had a back injury, so he's gone from hardly being able to move initially Thursday and Friday to now feeling a little bit better, not well enough to play, but still considered a day-to-day injury for Ramirez, and we'll just monitor how he does over the next few days when he'll be back in the Brewers lineup.
All right, Sophia, thanks much. It was good to see Herrera yesterday homering again in the role at third. Brewers went back-to-back to tie and then take the lead against the Cubs.
Yeah, that's the thing about when you get up there in age. He's been around how many years? 15 years in the big leagues, and what seemed to be maybe 1 or 2 days might turn into a little bit longer.
Herrera shoots one down the line, and that's a fair ball. Elian Herrera on his way to second. Oh, you got to love the work of these guys who are filling in. Elian Herrera, his versatility, he can play a lot of spots, and he's swinging the bat now.
And he's a switch hitter. Home run from the right side of the plate in yesterday's ball game to give the Brewers a lead. And now, as a left-handed hitter, doubles right down that right field line. Look at a high fastball. Able to go on top of it, and a good start to the 3rd inning. Or I should say the 4th inning for Milwaukee. Fair ball by about a foot.
So a scoring chance again for the Brewers. Here's Hector Gomez, who singled to left in the second. The Brewers put 3 on the board in the first, 2 more in the second inning. Shaky defense from the White Sox. Good contact being made by some of these Brewer hitters, like right there down the left field line. Hector Gomez will have at least a double. Elian Herrera will score, and it's 6-0 Milwaukee.
All right, how about Hector Gomez? He's something else. Fastball middle in at 92 miles an hour. So Hector Gomez 2 for 2. Well, that number 8 spot's been pretty good the last couple of days. This one down the left field line. Herrera doubled down the right field line. So Brewers with a run on the board, another man in scoring position.
Well, there's Elian Herrera. He was hitting 8th yesterday, and Hector Gomez is tonight. An RBI double. And here's Willie Peralta laying down another bunt. Hector Gomez will hold at second. And there's out number 1.
Hey, make sure you're at Miller Park this Memorial Day as the Brewers begin a 3-game series against the defending world champion San Francisco Giants. That's Monday, May 25th through Wednesday the 27th. Memorial Day tickets start at just $9. Call 414-902-4000 or go to Brewers.com.
Hector Gomez, the runner at second. Back to the top of the order for Milwaukee and Gerardo Parra.
The Giants starting to play better baseball.
Yeah, they
back to 500.
Yeah, they had a bad slump early in the year. Lost what, 9 in a row, 8, 9 in a row. Speaking of teams that are really scuffling right now, when the Rockies were here opening weekend, the opening week, you looked at that lineup and you thought, wow, this could be a really dangerous team, and it still could be. But the Rocks have lost 9 straight. They sit 11-17.
How about the Oakland A's? Very strange. They're 12-21.
Yeah. Sitting dead last in the AL West. Some interesting developments early on, and in the course of a long season, teams struggling, including the Brewers, have time to get things straightened out. And we're seeing some good signs here from the crew, including tonight. 6-0 jump on Jeff Samardzija and the Chicago White Sox. 2 strikes and nothing to Gerardo Parra.
Yeah, Parra with his 2 hits today against Samardzija, now 6 for 13 against him in his career. Not bad.
Well, you look at these matchups when he is in the lineup, and it just seems more often than not he fares well against the opposing pitcher that the crew would be matched up with. I mean, we're talking about a Gold Glove winner, but it might be easy to forget this guy will swing a pretty good bat, as the White Sox are finding out firsthand tonight. Covers a lot of ground, has a terrific throwing arm.
And the average up around 300 all of a sudden.
Yeah. Jumped up from 276 to 295 with his 2 hits so far tonight. See, he's good with runners in scoring position. He has one now, and Hector Gomez. Parra stays in there. One of those moves, the Brewers in the offseason didn't do a ton, as you know. Adam Lind, obviously the most notable of the changes, but they made the move for Parra last season, and it's turning into a very good move for this ball club. Parra strikes out swinging here. Second out of the inning.
There's that split-fingered fastball that Samardzija really hasn't been able to get to tonight. Brewers have been on the attack. Going straight down as he gets to home plate. And Parra over the top of it.
Now Ryan Braun. Speaking of hitters who have fared well against Samardzija. Parra has, so has Braun, to the tune of 10 for 20.
Yeah, 10 for 20 and 3 homers. Not bad.
We'll take that. Samardzija 0-5 as a starter against the Brewers. 0-3 at Miller Park. That's over 12 games. And an ERA of over 6. Samardzija went over to Oakland with the Cubs. He was in that trade involving Jason Hamill. Traded from the A's to the White Sox back in December. His ERA with the A's was pretty good, 3.14. The record, though, was a game under 500. It's clearly one of those pitchers where the record is deceiving. Some of those Cubs teams he was with. I mentioned last year before the trade with the Cubbies, his ERA was 2.83. His first All-Star honoree last year. First time he was named to the All-Star team. I mentioned earned it as a National Leaguer, but wore the Oakland A's uniform. The trade happened on July 5th.
Man, talking about a guy that doesn't get a lot of run support. Last year with the Cubs, 2-7, but that 283 earned run average. There's something wrong there.
Yeah. And it wasn't a whole lot better with the A's. As the A's made that flurry of trades. They're trying to stack up on pitching, and among the players they moved was Yoenis Cespedes. They lost some much needed offense. Full count to Ryan Braun. Hector Gomez, the runner at second. Run scoring double for him this inning. And Braun draws the walk. So runners at first and second with 2 men out.
Yeah, not sure that wasn't on purpose right there. You know that Samardzija very well aware that Ryan Braun wears him out.
Don Cooper, the pitching coach. We'll have a chat with Jeff Samardzija as Adam Lind will be the hitter. And the White Sox near the bottom in the American League in ERA. They are waiting for that top of the rotation, Jeff Samardzija and Chris Sale, to get into some rhythm here. Samardzija was one of the players suspended when they had the benches clearing rumble with the Kansas City Royals a few weeks back. He was originally appealing the suspension and then dropped it. And as it turns out, his last start was 6 days ago. So it always brings up the discussion about suspensions, and everyday players is one thing, but starting pitchers may not mean a whole lot.
Really misses a day, right? Not even. I mean, he goes right into his regular rotation a day late. Same thing for Chris Sale tomorrow.
Yeah, his suspension ends effective tomorrow when he starts against the Crew.
So he doesn't miss anything.
Yeah. I mean, want to know the count to Adam Lind. You certainly can't fault the player. That's going by the rules, but there are people who do bring it up when it happens with pitchers, with starting pitchers, about maybe how they could serve the suspension in a little different way. 2-0 pitch to Lind. And one thing we have found out for sure, the Royals are not afraid to get into it with the White Sox. They've had a couple of teams, the A's. Been a feisty bunch.
Yes, they have. But they're backing it up on the scoreboard.
They are. Lind fouls it back. Let's go back a couple of weeks ago. This was a little comebacker off the bat of Adam Eaton. Down Ventura.
Look at Ventura. He's going all at it.
And it was on. We'll see. Here's Samardzija right there. And unfortunately, a wild punch attempt. That was a Volquez made. Remember that, right?
And that's how guys get really hurt.
Here's Adam Lind. Deep but foul. Yeah, you're right. It was that you get those piles.
Somebody comes flying in and somebody gets hurt seriously hurt. But Ventura is not afraid to mix it up. He got into it with Mike Trout. Not the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah, you better be able to stick and move if you're going to do that with Mike Trout. Lind again laces one foul. Well, we saw this yesterday out in front a couple of times. Loud fouls. Two balls, 2 strikes to Lind. Of course, Samardzija, and most of you probably know this, made quite a name for himself on the football field back in college. Notre Dame, All-American. Sports star. And he just catches Adam Lind with a called 3rd strike. And the threat goes by the board, but the Brewers pick up another run. They lead 6-0.
The time for the ultimate auction time is running out for you to bid on 14 great Brewers experiences. There are a number of terrific items that you can bid on. There's, of course, Grab Grub with Brian and Bill. You can bid on owner's experience, sit and mark out Ignacio seats. You can be a Brewers reporter for a day. There's also a home plate dinner package. There are so many options for you to bid on. And Scooter Jeanette finally got on the board, a $750 bid to do pottery with Scooter. So we're looking to get some money raised here for BCF, the organizations that they support. So you can go to brewers.com/auction for more information on how to bid on these items.
There you go.
That's $800 a little low, Matty.
It is.
Then we're going to have to add some stuff. We're going to have to add, put BA, get him in heavy.
Yeah, like I said, he wants to make this big.
$800. It is a white tablecloth and candles dinner in the press room.
As always.
As always. Good food in there. It really is.
You are right about that.
We'll include a visit to the booth during the game. How about a visit to the production truck? I mean, that's always exciting.
Now, there you go. You find out, as you said yesterday, and accurately so, where all the work is done. I mean,
if you haven't ever been able to get in there and see that, and 99% of the folks haven't, including myself.
We try to avoid it at all costs. I know I'd get intimidated.
I've been invited in there quite a bit, but there's too much work going on. Get a headache.
Said, how do you keep track of all of that? Get that number up a little bit. Throw in some more things. We'll make promises for BA.
Right.
What all he'll include. Connor Gillespie stings one back up the middle and a base hit to center.
BA's into golf. Maybe we can add some golf in there. He can pony up, buy some golf.
With his schedule, talked to him yesterday morning, and he said he still found time to get out there. Get out and get his 18 holes in between his.
Found time, huh?
He found time in between that NBA playoff schedule. The busy guy. He's all over the country. Probably calling 2 games at once.
Mm-hmm.
And he is back on Friday, folks. And we good to get BA back. Get the 18 back together. The Brewers get ready for a 3-city road trip beginning with the Mets in New York. He's excited to get back, having a lot of fun with the NBA playoffs and doing a great job as he always does.
Yep. You're going to miss the Big Apple, huh?
I am. It's an unfortunate jump-off point for me, but good for everybody else. Good to be tuning in, checking out you and BA. That's about as nice as I can be. You probably don't want to be too nice to him, do you? Right. No.
Absolutely not.
Stupid question.
No, when he gets back in that seat. I don't like to talk about him until he's sitting here, you know.
Don't like to talk behind his back. It's no fun.
No.
Lexi Ramirez. Down a ball, 2 strikes. He's an all-star last year, and this guy can hit. With a couple of silver sluggers on his resume, including last year. Those power numbers back up, relatively speaking. This is a guy that when he's on, can give you double-digit homers, and he hit 15 of them a year ago. Struggled a little bit at short tonight. He's
typically pretty good over there.
33 years old. Drove in 74 runs last season. It's a White Sox team that won 73 games, but that was a 10-win jump from the year before.
And he committed only 15 errors at shortstop last year. That was in 158 games. So
right.
He's a guy that he'll be in there just about every day. He's played in 158 games in each of the last 4 years. And 15 errors is pretty good.
That's good work at that spot. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hit for Gillespie, by the way, the 3rd hit, but the first one tonight for the Sox that left the infield. It's a 2-2 pitch. Hector Noesi getting loose in the Chicago bullpen.
Yep, just in case that pitcher spot comes up in this inning.
A full count to the White Sox shortstop. Connor Gillespie led off this inning with a single to center. Ground ball, sharply hit. Nice stab, Herrera. No play at second and over to first. Had a little trouble getting it out of his glove, but makes the play at first.
Well, that was a nice play right there. Wow. You know, the backhand play, that was a tricky hop that he had to handle and did it nicely. Check this out. Getting down, getting those eyes at the level of the bounce. Thought about second and decided to go to first and just able to get Ramirez by half a step. That's a tremendous play at third base.
Recognized by Willie Peralta. And the versatility. This guy can play a lot of spots for you. Elian Herrera. Well, Gillespie moves to second. Here's Giovanni Soto. He grounded to Herrera in the 3rd. Soto was an all-star with the Cubs going back to 2008. Last year in August, the A's purchased his contract from the Rangers. It's actually the starting catcher in the wild card game against the Royals. Was hurt early in the game. He left, and the Royals, a team that could run to begin with, ran wild. I mean, they were stealing base after base especially after Soto left. He's hurt in the second inning of that wild card game with the Royals. And there's a drive hit back into deep left center field, and that will get the White Sox on the board. Second home run of the year for Giovanni Soto, and it's a 6-2 game.
And notice second time through for this White Sox lineup, who really haven't seen much of Willie Peralta. Getting much better swings. That's how quickly major league hitters make adjustments. Really breezed for the first time through the batting order, but second time through much different. White Sox second time through, 2 runs on 4 hits. And a nice easy swing by Soto, and knocks it back, way back out there in left center.
So the White Sox get on the board. There's the veteran Giovanni Soto with a 2-run shot. There's Micah Johnson with a chopper. Lind, a feed to Peralta, and he did not get the bag. Micah Johnson is on.
Man, just couldn't find first base. He had the baseball in time. And we'll see if Craig Counsell and the replay crew is going to take a look at it. Baseball's there in time. Well, he might have had it.
Ooh, yeah. Let's try this angle.
Man, they might take a look at that one right here. The second time. Is it too late? Not sure. I guess not. I guess so.
Yeah.
I think he might have got the side of the bag.
I think so. I think this is worth it.
Not here, but there. Does he get it before Johnson has the foot on the base? Right there. I think he's got him.
Yeah, I think this is worth a challenge, and they will review. He's having a little trouble, Willie, with the steps, but last angle looks promising here for the Brewers. Let's see.
Very close, though. Is there enough to overturn it?
The Brewers have been successful on 5 of their 6 challenges this season. So we'll see if there's enough to overturn this safe call. White Sox with a couple of runs here in the 5th. 2-run homer from Giovanni Soto.
Yeah, right there. Does he have the bag or not? Hard to tell from that angle. Take a look at Clint Fagan. I mean, he's right on it. I mean, he is in perfect position to make that call. Question is it the right call? Very close.
So they continue to take a look at it back at the headquarters. Those big screens back there. Rock said it before and worth repeating. You and BA had a chance to tour that facility.
Yep. Yeah. They get every look. They get the looks that we get on television and some others, and taking them a while. They have an umpire stationed in Chelsea, New York, in that replay area. They have one umpire watching 2 games. And this is going to be an interesting one. This could go either way.
Original call had Micah Johnson safe at first. But this is an interesting review and becoming a somewhat lengthy one as we get the verdict. Out. Oh, replay's a good thing. This time.
I'll tell you, those are tough ones, though. I mean, that's really, a play like that is not the reason that they have replay. But the Brewers benefit from it. It's the obvious calls that you want to get right.
Jeff Smarja will go ahead and hit. Again, you have that, the replay crew. They've got the big clear screens to look at. Let's go back to the sport I'm around a lot in the wintertime, and it's courtside monitors, which may not be all that big, and the looks just aren't going to be maybe as good. Can be a little grainy, be a little small. You've got that nice sterile environment in New York, and you get as clear a look as you can possibly get.
And about as objective as it gets, because you don't really hear any fan reaction and nobody in your ear trying to convince you one way or another. You know, once they go to a review, umpires on the field have nothing to say about it.
Which makes sense. They are the messengers. A ball, 2 strikes to Samardzija. Brian O'Nora working behind the plate tonight, by the way. Here's the 1-2. Willie Peralta looking for his 2nd win of the season, but he's pitched very well. He's someone, we talked about Samardzija's record being deceiving through the years. You could say much the same this season so far for Peralta. Fastball missed inside, a full count. Sharply hit, and a base hit for the White Sox pitcher. And a sliding stop by Gerardo, or by Gomez, I should say, and Samardzija held to a long single.
Samardzija hammering that one. That was right down the middle. Of course, Willie didn't want to walk him. It's a bullet out there into the gap. That's a pretty good swing by a pitcher. It's only his 2nd at bat this year. A strikeout and a base hit. And Gomez doing a pretty good job keeping him at first base.
Pitching coach Rick Kranitz with a quick visit. So 2 outs, 2 runs in here in the 5th for the White Sox. That hit for Samardzija, the 5th of the night for Chicago. There you see it. That's interesting to look at there, Rock, and you brought it up in his last outing. That free and easy delivery that Peralta has. He was still in the later innings against the Dodgers, bringing it 96, 97. Those guys who can get tougher as the game moves along. The White Sox touching him up here a little bit. 2nd time around, and now to the top of the order, 3rd time through. Here's Adam Eaton.
Dodgers helped him out a little bit. They attacked early in the count. 8 innings for Willie, only 101 pitches. Pretty good pitch count for 8 innings these days.
That's a great pitch count. One and one to Eaton. Reached on an error and had an infield hit. It was the first hit of the night for the White Sox back in the 4th inning. I believe they have their leadoff hitter here secured if they can keep him healthy.
He's had a difficult time getting going. Of course, he's been on base twice tonight.
Yeah.
Hitting an error.
Yeah, just 202. That was just foul. Last year he hit 300, but still had to miss some 30 games because of injuries. The year before he was out. In fact, only played 66 games when he was with the Diamondbacks last year. Had an elbow issue. Last year tied for the American League lead in triples. He had 10. The 1-2. Willie Peralta giving up a 2-run homer to Giovanni Soto here in the 5th. And that is a fair ball down the left field line. Samardzija turns second. And he'll be held at third as Gerardo Parra comes up with it. And they had the relay set with Hector Gomez, but a double for Eaton, and the White Sox inning continues.
Yeah, they are getting some good swings after that first time through the batting order. Much better approach against Peralta, and really getting a lot of the plate with this one. And Adam Eaton with a nice approach, just trying to serve it down that left field line, and ends up with a double. Brewers fortunate that it was Samardzija on base, or that might have been another run.
So the White Sox with runners at second and third for Melky Cabrera. Coming into the game, he has excelled with runners in scoring position, 9 for 23. Peralta trying to settle, and Maldonado trying to help him settle.
28 pitches in this inning alone.
You see a couple of double plays in innings 1 and 4. 2 men out. Third out is proving elusive for Willie Peralta. There's the 1-0.
Remember, the Brewers got a break on a review, got a reverse call, got an out. This would be a really big inning.
Peralta trying to stop this inning at 2. The ball is strike to Melky Cabrera. After the overturned call, Samardzija a single, a double off the bat of Adam Eaton. White Sox now with 6 hits, the Brewers with 7. Milwaukee jumped to a 6-0 lead, getting 3 in the first, 2 in the second. Carlos Gomez with a home run in the first. The White Sox trying to chip their way back into it. And that's a strike and a breaking ball.
Yeah, good breaking ball in the back door right there on the outside corner.
Peralta has struck out 3. Has yet to walk a hitter. This is a big moment right here. Big at bat for Melky Cabrera. Gonna keep this lead at 4 for the Crew. Bringing it at 97. Now a full count.
Man, they don't want to have to deal with a guy on deck with the bases loaded, that's for sure. Jose Abreu.
Yeah, they have faced him with the bases empty in both of his at bats tonight, in the first and the fourth. A full count to Cabrera. Important pitch here for Willie Peralta, and here it comes. And he missed with the breaking ball, and they are loaded for a guy you don't want him loaded against.
First walk of the night for Willie Peralta, and it couldn't come at a worse time.
Jose Abreu. He's homered 6 times this season and 36 a year ago. Infield hit his last trip. That now gives him an 8-game hitting streak. And it's ball 1 as he holds up. And you see what he has done with the bases loaded. The 1-0. Chased and missed.
Yeah, he was pretty sure he was going to get a fastball right there, but Willie crossed him up, got him a slider, and waved at one of the dirt. Well, a good thing from Peralta, he swung at that. It'd be 2-0 with the bases loaded.
There's a situation that Peralta faces. Last year's American League Rookie of the Year at the plate. with 6 homers. His most recent occurred Saturday against the Reds. Here's the 1-1. Peralta with a 2-1 pitch. Power versus power here. As we've seen the breaking ball as well at this at bat.
Let's see if the Brewers and Maldonado try to get him to chase one in the dirt, a slider.
Here comes the 2-2. Ground ball. Elian Herrera gobbles it up, and the force at second. Really, Peralta gets out of further trouble as he retires Abreu with the bases loaded. The lead is 4 for the Crew.
And casino, and Craig Counsell first week on the job, but changing up the lineup. The Brewers have used a different lineup in all but one of their games, and today moving Carlos Gomez to the cleanup spot, he said, look, my approach is that we're going to put together the best group, put each hitter in their best position. So he says, as long as you take 4 good at-bats every day, it shouldn't matter where you hit in the lineup. He said, regardless of where you are in the lineup, just be yourself, do what you're good at. We're going to put you in the position where every player can perform, and they need to understand where they perform at their best. So he said Gomez is a guy who can hit anywhere in the lineup, led off this game with that home run.
Yes, he did. He's liking that cleanup spot. Leads off here in the bottom of the 5th. Well, the White Sox get a couple in the top half of the inning, but bases loaded. Peralta able to retire Jose Abreu.
Yeah, a lot of different lineups, but this has got to be the most radical change that we've seen to date. Brewers have only had the same lineup once this year, and that was in the first series of the year against the Rockies.
Yeah, mix and matching. Injuries, and then shuffling it up tonight with Gomez hitting 4th. It's been talked about for a while with Gomez, though, with the versatility that he brings, the power, and in some ways that could be a very good thing at the top of the order, and he can run. He's always going to take those big old cuts.
And that's the thing. I mean, players can't change their style of hitting based on where they're at in the batting order. That's the manager's job. To place a certain type of hitter in a certain spot in the order.
And Gomez down the line. That's going to be extra bases. He's homered already tonight. Turns second and burning for third. And he is there. Throw gets away. Gomez Gomez to the plate, and he is safe at home. Gomez brings it all the way around.
Now, there's going to be a review on this. Well, he's safe right now. Giovanni Soto convinced that he tagged him out before he got to the plate. And Robin Ventura looking in the dugout to see whether he wants to go and challenge this one. Well, you know it's going to be a triple. That was a foregone conclusion once you saw Garcia go in the corner. The throw gets away, and very aggressively, with nobody out, they send him. And the question is, does he have the hand in before Soto makes the tag? Well, I tell you, that's about as close as it gets. About as close as the one that was at first. This will be the definitive right here. I'm telling you, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be the guy in the replay booth. Yeah, but the call is safe.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I may have my Brewer glasses on here, but I'm not sure there's enough there to overturn it. We'll find out together.
The throw beats him. Now, does Soto make the tag before Gomez is in there? Question is the hand down on the corner edge of the plate, or is it up in the air? That's the question. Looks like the fingers were there, but were they touching home plate? I mean, it's that ticky-tack.
Yeah, you're right. That is a tough one. Saw an overturn call go in the Brewers' favor in the top half of the fifth.
Very aggressive. Eddie Cedar sending it with nobody out. And look at the home plate umpire, Brian Honora. He is right on it. See, the hand is up off the ground a little bit. Yeah, looks like it to me.
Yeah, did the palm of the hand get there even first?
Yeah, that's as close as it's going to be. Is the hand over the plate, or is it touching the plate when it gets the corner of the edge?
Well, the review in the top half of the fifth took a while, and this one is too, and you can understand why both of them, they needed some time.
Yeah, pretty good throw by Melky Cabrera to make it close, or to get the out. We'll see the result of this in a couple of seconds. And the thing about replay is, I mean, if you can't determine in about a minute and a half whether you're going to reverse it or keep it, you got to keep the call on the field.
Right.
I mean, you can look at these things for 5 minutes, and I don't think that's what replay review is all about.
Let's find out. Safe at home.
And I think that's what it came down to, because I don't think anybody in New York who saw that replay could say definitively whether he was definitely out or safe. That's one of those call stands because they couldn't tell.
So Robin Ventura gave it a whirl. Cleanup hitters who can run, take advantage of situations, and the Brewers have a 5-run lead. Here's Scooter Gennett. First pitch swinging. Oh, nice stab. Abreu out number 1.
I'm assuming that's going to be a triple and an error. Somebody is going to get an error on a throw, an errant throw.
And Gomez able to come around and score. Carlos Gomez, you're right. It's, you think triple and then find out the official scoring decision, but the most important thing is it's a run.
Yeah, somebody's got to get an error just throwing the baseball. I forget who it was that threw the baseball. It got away down the left field line.
0-1 the count to Maldonado. There's a ground ball to Ramirez. And there are 2 men out.
Hey, that brings us to tonight's Tavern of the Game winner. It's Peggy's Midtown in Black Creek. If they call the Brewers in the next 24 hours, they get 40 Miller Lite beer pen tickets to a Brewers home game. This offer courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite. Yeah, triple and E9. That's Garcia airmailed that one into the infield and didn't hit anybody with it.
And Gomez with that speed able to take advantage. Elian Herrera skies one to right. And that'll be Garcia. Making the catch, out number 3, but the inning begins with some excitement. Carlos Gomez with a triple and comes home on an error. And the Brewers lead 7-2 after 5. Tonight, Fox Sports Live gets caught up on a full night of NHL and NBA playoff action, plus highlights on tonight's MLB games. You can see Fox Sports Live tonight, 10 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. We'll see it simulcast right here on Fox Sports Wisconsin. Well, Carlos Gomez, exciting player, triples and comes around to score on a throwing error charged to the right fielder, Avi Garcia.
Always seems to make something happen, doesn't he?
He really does.
He's something else.
It's so much fun to watch, and hopefully he'll be healthy and fans can continue to watch him. Hey, Garcia, that error, the first charge to him. He has a good arm. He has 6 outfield assists coming into this game. That leads the big leagues. This is popped up, and Jeanette will give way to Ryan Braun.
An important inning for Willie Peralta. He's got that pitch count up at 85. Working here in the 6th inning.
It was a busy 5th as 8 White Sox came to the plate. Here's Connor Gillespie, who started that 5th inning with a base hit to center. He starts against right-handed pitching. It's part of the book on Connor Gillespie. So with that in mind, good chance we're going to see a lot of him here in this next 3 nights. The ground ball, Hector Gomez. 2 up, 2 down here in the 6th.
Hey, rock band OAR is coming to Miller Park on Saturday, June 13th to perform a free post-game concert presented by Pick and Save following the Brewers game against the Washington Nationals. For tickets, visit brewers.com/concerts or call 414-902-4000.
2 up, 2 down in the 6th. It's Alexi Ramirez. Grounded sharply to third in the 5th inning. It's 0 for 2 tonight. Average down to 233. Carry out of play. So far, so good in this 6th for Peralta. The White Sox touched him up. A couple of runs in the 5th. Left the bases loaded. Peralta able to get Abreu to bounce into a force. On a 3-2 pitch. Dangerous situation, but Peralta got out of it.
And he got away with a hanging slider, too. Abreu hit it hard, but fortunately for the Brewers, it was right at Herrera at third base.
Two pitch to Ramirez. Track the Central. Pirates lead the Phillies 3-2 in the 7th inning. Cubs lead the Mets 3-1 in the 4th at Wrigley. Cardinals are idle. Reds and Braves just getting underway. Ramirez a swing and a miss, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Willie Peralta. We move to the bottom of the 6th. Brewers up by 5. Sox 7-2 the Crew. They have scored in all but the 3rd inning here tonight. Is the offense alive for Milwaukee? Let's take a look at the plate presented by Wendy's, and Hector Gomez in that 8th spot, liking it. Single and a double. RBI double, as a matter of fact, in the 4th inning. Jeff Samardzija out there for his 6th inning of work. Brewers have hit him hard at times, but also been some shaky defense, a couple of errors.
Yeah, a couple of errors have contributed to 2 runs for the Brewers, 2 runs at least.
Here's a 2-0 pitch.
I figure Samardzija might have a little extra in the tank. He's pitching on an extra day's rest. Normal rotation spot was yesterday.
Gomez with a line drive, left center field, on the run, and making the catch is Cabrera. Wow, takes away a double from Hector Gomez.
Yeah, needed every bit of his speed to make that catch. That was a heck of a grab by Cabrera. Got a good jump on it. He's playing deep to start with, but I'll tell you, Hector Gomez putting some good swings on the baseball today. Look at Cabrera, fully stretched out, able to make the catch. Leaves his feet and hauls it in right in front of the warning track. And Hector Gomez stinging the baseball tonight.
We'll have a pinch hitter for Willie Peralta. Mentioned Hector Gomez making some good contact tonight, and here's a guy who makes good contact most of the time. Jason Rogers will pinch hit. So has that average above 300. You mentioned, Rock, with Samardzija with that extra day's rest. And remember, the White Sox had to stack games. They played a doubleheader on Saturday and played again yesterday afternoon. But it was a busy bullpen on Saturday. Yesterday, not so much. Dave Robertson came in and actually blew a save for the first time this year, but ended up being the winning pitcher. The White Sox winning in walk-off fashion. Rogers a fly ball to right. And that'll be Avi Garcia. 2 men out.
Yeah, you got a nice short stroke, and Rogers, he's only made 3 starts this year, 2 at first, 1 at third. Most of his at-bats have come as a pinch hitter.
As Gerardo Parra strolls to the plate under Jimmy John's delivery of the game, batting in the leadoff spot here tonight. Parra with a base hit his first trip. Went right to the running game, getting himself a stolen base, and then a double, RBI double. 1 inning later. It's 2 for 3 tonight. And he shoots 1 foul. Mentioned the White Sox in the busy bullpen of the doubleheader. Yesterday, Robertson pitched, as did the former Brewer Zach Duke. Try to get as much as they can out of Jeff Samardzija tonight. Brewers going to work on him, though, leading 7-2.
Yeah, Zach Duke up to his old tricks. He's having a nice season so far. A 1.26 ERA and 14 appearances. Zach leads the White Sox in appearances out of the bullpen.
He really has fit the definition of someone who's reinvented himself. Really good work with the crew last year, and now with the White Sox. And that is strike 3 called as Samardzija sets him down. 1, 2, 3, and we are through 6. 7-2 the Brewers.
We are wrapping up the BCF Ultimate Auction. There are 14 exclusive Brewers experiences that you can bid on. And now, since we went on the air, we've seen some bumps in some of these experiences. So fantasy camp, spring training, doing pottery with Scooter Jeanette, along with grabbing grub with Brian and Bill. They've all seen some increases. We want to see some increases in some other categories. So how about like working on fundamentals with Darnell Coles, the hitting coach? Rick Kranitz can teach you a little something about pitching. There's some terrific Miller Park experiences that you can bid on. And again, tomorrow is the deadline. You have until 11:59 tomorrow night. You can go to brewers.com/BCF week to bid on any of these 14 experiences, and all of it goes to benefit the Brewers Community Foundation, who does so much here in the local community. Matt.
All right, Sophia, thanks much. That'd be fun to get coached up a little bit, working with Rick Kranitz, Darnell Coles, and not to mention, dinner with Bill and B.A.
About the alumni suite, that should be fun.
That would be fun.
Some former Brewers in there telling stories.
That, there's so many things fun about being around sports, but I mean, for me, that's where the fan in me really comes out. I mean, when you get to hear guys just tell the old stories, if it's players, umpires, managers, I think this game lends itself to that maybe as much as any sport, maybe more than any sport. That'd be a pretty good way to spend a night.
Yeah. Hanging out with Jim Gantner and Jerry Augustine, Gorman Thomas.
Yes, sir.
I'm making sure that those guys are going to be in there by saying that.
Put the pressure on.
I know Gorman doesn't have anything else to do. Augie's busy.
Maybe a reporter for a day. Make pottery with Scooter Jeanette. That's pretty cool.
Hey, the roof tour. Have you ever been up on the roof? The track beam up there?
I have not.
I have been up there. Now, I'm afraid of heights, but it's okay up there.
You were okay?
I was all right up there. I'm not going to go out that catwalk up there. No chance of that.
Just not going to happen.
No.
Giovanni Soto homered his last trip, and he shoots one back up the middle against Will Smith and a base hit.
See, Augie's ready. He'll sit in that suite with you, have a couple of pops, tell some stories.
He'll tell you stories all night long.
He is. He's a storyteller. They all are. And you know what? Some of them are true.
I was just going to say. Sometimes the truth gets in the way of a good story. Emilio Bonifacio will pinch hit. Pinch hitting for Micah Johnson. The 30-year-old getting an opportunity here as he pinch hits for the rookie.
White Sox has some thump on the bench. Adam LaRoche, Gordon Beckham. So late in the ball game, Robin Ventura has some options.
And National League rules, you would see LaRoche DHing, but that is not the case here in the National League Park. Bonifacio shoots one foul. Look out. Bonifacio, utility player through the years. Nice year with the Marlins 4 years ago. Signed as a free agent. The White Sox back in January. Will Smith on in relief of Willie Peralta. You're with the Marlins. Bonifacio hit .296. Was with the Cubs last year and then moved to the Braves.
Nice switch hitter, pretty good from both sides of the plate, and he can run.
2 balls, 1 strike. We went past him. Good Will Smith. Appearance number 16 for the left-hander. He's led the league with 78 a year ago.
They gave up a base hit to tie the ball game last night, or yesterday I should say. A third of an inning for Will.
2-2 pitch to Bonifacio, got him swinging.
Good slider. Well, the Brewers honor the man who kept baseball in Milwaukee with Bud Selig Bobblehead Day, presented by IBS Dynaman. at Sunday, May 31st against the Diamondbacks. For tickets, call 414-902-4000 or go to Brewers.com. Brewers also are going to be unveiling the Bud Selig experience here at the ballpark.
Yeah, very soon.
But enjoying retirement, if you will, right now.
Yeah, the qualifier there, if you will.
Yeah, busy.
He doesn't strike me as a guy who just sits around. Gordon Beckham now pinch hitting. He had the walk-off single against the Reds yesterday. Giovanni Soto led off this inning with a base hit. Emilio Bonifacio struck out. Brewers got the early jump on the White Sox. Now trying to keep them at arm's length. Curve misses, 2-0. Peralta 6 innings, 6 hits, gave up 2 runs, walked 1, struck out 4. Beckham checking in at 278. A couple of home runs.
Yeah, big hole between first and second. Brewers not expecting him to do it.
Count evens 2-2. First of 3, right back at it tomorrow. And then Wednesday, which will wrap up the homestand. And then the Brewers head to a 3-city road trip. First stop New York to play the Mets. 2-2 pitch. Back to Smith. Chance to, the throw gets away from Scooter Gennett and into center field. And Soto moves to third.
I'm not sure what happened there. I mean, the throw looked like it was a little bit off the mark, but one that Scooter should have been able to handle. Yeah, Smith put something on it. I mean, he threw it pretty hard, but went right by Gennett, right off the edge of his glove. Little high, but that's one you got to catch. I would imagine that's got to be an E4. A little bit high, but certainly catchable for Gennett. Not sure why he missed it.
So now the White Sox with an opportunity. Runners at the corners and 1 out. That will be an error charged to Gennett.
And now you got the top of the order coming up.
Adam Eaton has reached all 3 times. 2 for 3 officially, but reached on an error in the first. Both teams have committed 2 errors now. Will Smith in some trouble in the top half of the 7th. It's a 1-1 pitch.
Perfect, right on the outside corner. 94 miles an hour. We saw Smith get one up in yesterday's game at 95.
We'll see if he brings that slider. Lefty versus lefty, a 1-2 count. Here's the pitch. Back up the middle and a base hit. This will score a run. And the White Sox are within 4.
They tried to sneak a fastball by him, but Adam Eaton able to handle it.
Third hit of the night for Adam Eaton.
You see him on the inside corner. That's a good piece of hitting by Eaton, pulling the hands in and shooting it right back into center field. So the White Sox able to pick up a run. And the beat goes on. Now they got the meat of the order coming up.
Yeah, Brewers playing with fire here. They gave up a couple of runs in the 5th, got out of a bases loaded jam. They're at first and second now with a run across. Melky Cabrera at the plate. And there's a fly ball hit back into left field. Gerardo Parra at the track. Got it. 2 men out.
Well, just got under it, and out on the end just a little bit. He had the body out in front. Sounded good, just didn't carry.
So a little sigh of relief at the moment for Brewers fans. Craig Counsell will make his way to the mound. White Sox with a run across, 2 men out and 2 men on. As we will see Jeremy Jeffress leads the National League in appearances. He'll add to it tonight. It's 7-3. Brewers lead the White Sox as we continue from Miller Park. Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. And by the Wisconsin Lottery, reminding you to please play responsibly. White Sox with a run across, still threatening. We're in the top of the 7th with the Brewers leading 7-3. Pitching change here for the Crew, as Will Smith will give way to Jeremy Jeffress.
Yeah, 19th appearance for Jeremy. He's a guy that can throw a lot, and he certainly has been so far this year. And Jeffress pitched in yesterday's ball game, tossed a scoreless 10th inning, gave up a hit, also struck out a batter.
Well, they're going to have him face their big hitter, Jose Abreu. Infield single in the 4th that now gives him an 8-game hitting streak. He was up with the bases loaded in the 5th. Grounded into a force. The Brewers living dangerously here with the White Sox power hitter. A little power on power right here with Jeffress.
Just got to be careful if you hang a breaking pitch. Remember, Willie hung a slider, got away with it with the bases loaded his last time out.
Here's the 0-1. Just heat so far from Jeffress, missing with a fastball. Gordon Beckham, the runner at second. Adam Eaton at first. Jeffress ready with a 1-1 to Abreu. And that gets through Maldonado. And the runners advance.
I've seen a couple of those in the last few games get by Maldonado with a wild pitch. Jeffress spikes it in the dirt. That's a tough one to handle for a catcher. You don't expect the fastball to be in the dirt. And that one bounced in front of home plate.
Oh, a dicey situation here for the Crew. With runners in scoring position, a 2-1 count to Jose Abreu. Six home runs. He has driven in 17. The top 5 in a number of categories last year. Well, he was the Rookie of the Year in the American League. Jeremy Jeffress trying to set him down and in the inning. Here comes the 2-2. Ground ball, and that is through. A base hit. It will score 2, and it's a 7-5 ball game.
Yeah, they're not going away. Well, you play with fire too much. You make errors and you give extra outs. We mentioned when we came on the air, the White Sox have been swinging the bats pretty well lately, and Jose Abreu drives in a couple. Yeah, a couple of hops through the infield, just out of the reach of Gomez, and we've got ourselves a ball game here at Miller Park, just like that. 3 runs in here in the 7th inning.
And another dangerous hitter. In fact, their most dangerous so far this season, Avi Garcia, who suddenly represents the tying run. Well, the White Sox, with their little surge, if you want to call it that, offensively, the last 5 games, they're hitting close to 300. That has a middle of the pack in the American League in team batting average. They were scraping close to the bottom here before these last 5 or 6 games. They, like the Brewers, are finding a little bit of rhythm. Both teams off to very tough starts. White Sox come in 12-16. But they, like the Brewers, coming off a series win over the weekend. Robin Ventura's team spotted the Brewers a 6-0 lead tonight. But they are chipping away. 2 strikes and nothing to Garcia. Both teams have committed a couple of errors. The Brewers with their second miscue of the night here in this 6th inning, or 7th inning. Can't be too careful now. If you're Jefferson Maldonado, you want to be on the same page.
Man, you don't have to throw strikes here. You got a 0-2 count. Maybe throw a curveball in the dirt. Maybe try to get Garcia to chase one up in the zone.
The 2-strike pitch, and make it strike 3. Hopped one past him at 95, and that's it for the White Sox. But they scored 3, and it's a 2-run game.
7th for the White Sox, and you can earn free Brewers tickets simply by filling up your car with gas. Fans who complete a BP Come On Back card by making 7 purchases of 8 or more gallons of gas at participating BP gas stations will earn a free Terrace Reserve ticket good for select Brewers games. Visit your local BP station for details. Almost had it.
Right on the edge. Gordon Beckham will stay in the game. He is at second base now for the White Sox. Well, that is over for Jeff Samardzija. Exit him and enter Zach Putnam.
Yeah, 12th appearance or a 13th appearance for Putnam. A 1-1 record. You see that earned run average. Certainly not where he wants it. On a batting average at .295. More strikeouts, though, than innings pitched.
And he'll face Ryan Braun, Adam Lind, and Carlos Gomez. Well, the White Sox have made a game of it here. 7-5 ball game after 3 runs in the top half of the inning for Chicago. Braun with a run-scoring single. He's also walked tonight.
Yeah, Putnam threw an inning and 2/3 scoreless in the first game of Saturday's doubleheader. He is a big-time strikeout pitcher.
And he has Braun down 0-2. Putnam signed as a free agent back in November of 2013. Originally a 5th-round pick of the Indians back in the 08 draft. Former Michigan Wolverine.
And that basically fastball splitter. He'll cut his fastball once in a while. But that splitter right there is his strikeout pitch when he gets ahead of batters.
A ball, 2 strikes to Ryan Braun. As Braun, he started that 11th inning. The Brewers went on to win on the Maldonado walk-off. It was Braun who started it with a double to right center. That single for him in the second gives him a 6-game streak now. Here's the 2-2. Foul over at third. Let's check out the Powerball home run leaderboard with Ryan Braun right there with Adam Lind. Ramos Ramirez still holding him out. The lower back issue improving, but as Sophia told us earlier here tonight, we just want to go easy with the Ramos. Make sure he is good to go before getting him back out there so he could stay out there. Full count now to Braun.
It's always rough when you're missing Ramirez in the lineup, but the guys that have been filling in have been doing a pretty good job so far.
We have Elian Herrera tonight with a double, with a big home run yesterday. As he continues to get work at third, 4th straight time that Herrera has started over there. There he is. The Brewers looking for the 2, 3, and 4 hitters to get something going in the bottom of the 7th. And that is strike 3 called. Out number 1 in the 7th.
Brewers need to tack on here. Momentum has shifted into that third base dugout right now, so the Brewers offense needs to get something going. White Sox feeling pretty good about themselves, and Putnam able to find the bottom of the strike zone, and Brown Honora rings it up.
Here's Adam Lind. Mentioned Putnam played his college ball at Michigan, was the conference pitcher of the year back in 08. Grew up in Ann Arbor. On his 2nd year with the White Sox, appearing in 49 games a year ago. There's a fly ball that will carry foul down the line. and hitless tonight. He was driven in a run and has that average at 309. He continues to be among the leaders in a number of categories with the, keep saying start, but we're now about 6 weeks into the season. Among the leaders in extra base hits, top 5 there, top 6 in slugging percentage. 10 doubles has him ranked 6th as well.
Yeah, it's still early, but a bad start can really bury you for the entire season.
1-2, and Putnam strikes out Adam Lind. Back-to-back strikeouts here in the 7th.
Yeah, he got drawn on the cutter, and now Lind strikes out on the split-fingered fastball.
And here's the shining moment of the game presented by Marshfield Clinic. Got a cleanup tonight. Carlos Gomez, first at bat, launched one. Second home run of the year, and then it got really exciting in the 5th inning. A triple to right, and then a poor throw from Avi Garcia, and Gomez was able to come all the way around. They reviewed it. The call stood. Gomez with a triple and then scored on the error.
Yeah, things were looking good about that time. Things have changed dramatically.
Yeah, that made it a 7-2 game. The Brewers jumped to a 6-0 lead. 3 runs in the first, 2 in the second, another in the 4th. Gomez hacking away, but he's down 0-2. White Sox with 3 runs in the top of the 7th. As this game is getting close. Gomez gets a piece. Still fair to say it's working himself into rhythm, trying to stay out on the field there. Had the stint on the disabled list, missed some time over the weekend with a hip issue. In the lineup yesterday, and the same deal tonight.
Well, at some point the Brewers are going to be at full strength. When that is, nobody's sure. It's kind of been the way it's gone since the first 10-12 games of the year.
It'd be nice to find out, how good this team can be at full strength, and hopefully we'll be able to get those answers, and this team can get up and running with that lineup that broke camp. All the cliches, it's a part of the game and all of that, but this team got hit with the injury bug early and often. Craig Counsell mixing up the lineup again tonight with Carlos in the cleanup spot. Gerardo Parra hitting at the leadoff spot.
But you got to figure out a way to win games. That's what this business is all about, right?
Absolutely. And there's a fly ball to center field, and Adam Eaton will have room at the edge of the track, and it's a 1-2-3 inning, 2 strikeouts and a fly ball, and we're through 7-5 Brewers. 5. It's getting tight here at Miller Park. Well, earlier we had our carsoup.com trivia question, and tonight's question: who are the 5 original teams to compete in the American League Central Division? And there are your answers. It's the old AL days.
Yeah. Which one stumped you?
Well, no, actually, it goes a little deeper than that. Where I got caught is when we were talking with our guru, our walking encyclopedia, Brian Michalogic. He was asking, hey, do you remember the old, what all the divisions the Brewers have been in the history of the franchise? And it had left my mind that they were once in the American League West, obviously with the Seattle Pilots, and then coming over here, they were an AL West team until '71. That escaped me. I knew all about the AL East and all of that, but yeah, that was that little nugget that I was educated or re-educated on. So
I think you're giving Brian Michalogic a lot more credit than he deserves.
Well, no, I'm giving him credit for helping me out.
Oh, okay.
Not you, not the rest of the world.
I mean, he doesn't come up with this stuff off the top of his head,
No, he was digging deep. He was looking into his book, and
And Jonathan Broxton, I'm going to get us out of this.
Thank you.
14th appearance for Broxton. You can see that earned run average over 6, almost 7. More strikeouts than innings pitched.
And there is a fly ball hit back into left field, and that is off the wall. Gillespie on his way to second. And the White Sox begin the 8th with a double from Connor Gillespie.
Yeah, the momentum is on their dugout right now. I mean, since the 4th inning or 5th inning, they have been swinging the bats pretty well. A leadoff double bring the tying run to the plate, and Gillespie hammers this baseball to the opposite field at the base of the wall.
Well, how the momentum turns. And now Broxton gives up a leadoff double, and he'll face Alexi Ramirez.
Yeah, 4 of the last 5 innings, the White Sox have been able to get their leadoff hitter aboard.
2 runs in the 5th, 3 more in the 7th, and already a threat going here in the 8th inning. Ramirez 0 for 3 tonight, struck out his last trip in the 6th. Going after the first pitch from Broxton.
Yeah, Broxton's been mixing it up better this year than he was last. Fastballs, mid-90s. He'll throw a slider, and he's been throwing some curveballs of late, trying to get hitters off that fastball.
Here's the 0-1. And that's a base hit to right. Gillespie rounding third, but the stop sign is up as Braun rifles one to the plate. Runners at the corners here to start the 8th inning for Chicago.
Offense has been well spread out for the White Sox tonight. And one of the toughest outs of the night for the Brewers is coming to the plate.
Well, they're going to go to their bench. And Adam LaRoche.
How about that?
Yeah, Giovanni Soto, a scheduled hitter who has homered and singled. And Robin Ventura bringing up the always dangerous LaRoche.
That's somewhat of a surprise, pulling Soto, who's having a good night at the plate. That's the benefit that Ventura has, is having Adam LaRoche lurking in that bench. Use him anytime he wants.
Yeah, and here's the hammer. This guy on a regular basis gives you 20+ home runs. He has 3 so far this season, has driven in 11. Veteran presence along with productivity. Last 4 years with the Nationals. See what he's done against the Brewers in his career. Last year with the Nats, he homered 26 times and drove in 92. A lot of patience at the plate, too. Threw a career high 82 walks. Here's the 1-0. +20 bombs in 9 of the last 10 seasons for LaRoche.
Somewhat of a gap-to-gap type hitter. You can see Broxton got a break on that last call.
1 ball, 1 strike. Red Sox first 2 hitters have reached here in the 8th inning. Signed a free agent deal with the White Sox last November. 35-year-old Adam LaRoche.
Yeah, Brewers gladly exchanged 2 outs for a run here. Infield back.
Loxton with the 2-1. There's a shot to right field. That's a base hit. That'll score a run. 1-run game at Miller Park.
Well, every hitter so far against Broxton has hit one right on the screws. Everything hit very hard. Yep, a 2-1 pitch down in the strike zone. That's where LaRoche likes it. And a bullet into right. Everything hit hard in this inning.
Still nobody out. As the pinch hit parade will continue as Broxton trying to settle here. Will face J.B. Shuck. So a double from Gillespie, singles from Ramirez, and then LaRoche as a pinch hitter. Broxton still trying to retire a man. Shuck squares around and pops it back.
Yeah, Robin Ventura just fine with emptying his bench. He's going to have to use Flowers in the bottom of this inning to catch. And after he uses Flowers, that's it. Coverage bare.
An interesting move as Soto was having a good night, but a good move for Ventura as LaRoche delivers a pinch single. And now J.B. Shuck, who's hitting .261 on the season. A 1-strike pitch again, trying to bunt, and a foul ball that's wide of Herrera. Shuck unsuccessful in 2 bunt attempts. And suddenly the White Sox have the tying run at second and the go-ahead run at first after trailing early by 6.
White Sox have only dropped down 3 successful sacrifice bunts. They're not used to doing it. It's not something you see a whole lot of in the American League.
No balls, 2 strikes. Shuck originally, as Broxton stepped off, Shuck originally was an Astros pick back in 08. Made his big league debut against the Brewers 4 years ago. White Sox got him off the waiver wire. 0-2 the count. Got him swinging. Out number 1 here in the 8th.
Yeah, he needed that in the worst way. The slider off the corner, not a very good at bat by Shuck. Not only did he make the out, not able to advance any base runners. A good 0-2 pitch off the outside corner and gets him.
Out number 1. And now Gordon Beckham. And the big hit yesterday for the White Sox to beat Cincinnati. Broxton trying to prevent another big hit here. Willie Peralta started. He went 6, gave up a couple of runs. Since then, we've seen Will Smith, Jeremy Jeffress, and now Jonathan Broxton. The 0-1 to right field. Braun with plenty of room. 2 men out. Ramirez will advance to third.
Yeah, good slider that time. Got Beckham out on the end just a bit. And now that brings up the top of the order and the red hot Adam Eaton.
Yeah, the Brewers have yet to get him out.
Well, yesterday Craig Counsell took Broxton out with Anthony Rizzo at the plate to bring in Will Smith. Nobody getting loose in that Brewers bullpen right now. Neil Kotz is available. But this is Broxton's inning.
So he'll deal with Adam Eaton. You saw the 3-for-4. Eaton reached on an error to begin the game. Infield hit in the 4th, a double in the 5th. Run scoring single in the 7th. Tying run at third here for the White Sox. White Sox come to town having won 4 of their last 6. Took 2 out of 3 from the Tigers and the Reds down in Chicago. And a team that has struggled mightily on the road, though. They come into Miller Park just 2-11 away from home. It's been a big storyline with this team. The last couple of years, their road record, it's been awful. The Brewers trying to keep it that way. Here's the 2-0.
Not going to do much with that pitch. Good pitch by Broxton. Thing about Eaton, he's been covering both sides of the plate pretty well tonight. Outside, inside, hitting the ball hard no matter where you put it.
Looking more like the Adam Eaton who was a .300 hitter a year ago. And not the one who came into the game around 200, but he's bumped it up with his good night tonight. Ramirez at third. LaRoche at first. And heads up over that way. Straighten it out, they say. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Another good pitch by Broxton. Talking about a defensive swing. That pitch literally about 6 inches outside. Not sure why Eaton went after it. And now the count's even.
Let's see what they dial up here. Here comes the 2-2 pitch. Just did get a piece. White Sox have out-hit the Brewers 12-8. Both teams with a couple of errors tonight. Chicago has stranded 5. Broxton trying to make it 7 right here. And keep the White Sox at 6 runs. Again, the 2-2. And we'll do it one more time.
Tough guy to punch out, Adam Eaton. He's hanging right in there, just trying to foul off some tough pitches until he gets one he likes.
One more time, the 2-2. Broxton to Adam Eaton. Off the foot. And he'll need to walk it off.
That'll slow him down a bit.
Yeah, it will. Good matchup here. Broxton against Eaton. The White Sox have rallied to make it a one-run game. Pitch number 8 of the at-bat coming up. And here it is. And a base hit to right. And this game is tied at 7.
Yeah, went with a slider, and Eaton just dropped a head on it and rolled it into right. And that was a good battle between Eaton and Broxton. Won by Eaton with the base hit. An 8-pitch at bat. Well, and the White Sox jump off the mat down 6-zip. Tie it up. Left that one up out over the plate. And the Brewers bullpen's having a rough night.
Yeah, tonight when Willie Peralta gets run support, it's the White Sox battling back. A 4-hit night for Adam Eaton.
And this inning's not over yet. They tied it up, 2 outs, still runners on base, and Melky Cabrera coming up.
Brewers bullpen getting busy again. A rough 8th inning for Broxton. Two runs across, 2 on with 2 out. Melky Cabrera, he has walked. Otherwise, a couple of double plays and a fly ball to left. The White Sox have come all the way back. They have tied the game at 7. .257 average for Cabrera, but a ton better against right-handed pitching. .333 as opposed to sub 100 against lefties. The 1-0. Roche the runner at second. Adam Eaton at first. He has been very dangerous in these situations. Melky Cabrera. The 2-0.
Yep, able to catch that outside corner. Broxton's fastball down to 92 miles an hour now.
Yeah, we're used to seeing mid-90s from him. And the Brewers in another close one. Went extras yesterday. And a tie game here in the 8th. There's a fly ball. He's back into center field. Gomez on the run. Reaches up. Makes the catch. Thank you very much. Gomez runs it down and keeps the game tied. Well, he's made it happen with the bat. He makes it happen with the glove. Brewers and White Sox tied at 7.
Carlos Gomez may have saved the day by ending that 8th inning frame for the White Sox. They come all the way back after trailing 6-0. We're tied 7-7. Brewer defense has not been clean whatsoever. However, that last play by Gomez at least sets the stage for a tie game at this point.
Yeah, I don't know about it, Craig. Today's game hasn't been clean defensively, but you need big players to make big plays at certain times. Carlos Gomez goes back over the shoulder, makes probably a game-saving catch to end the inning.
Two of the heroes from yesterday will bat in this frame. It's going to be Jeanette Maldonado and Herrera. See if the Brewers can rally. We've got Brewers Live post-game on the way, Matt.
All right, Craig Augie, thank you very much. J.B. Shuck, pinch hitter, will stay in the game and play left field. Tyler Flowers now behind the plate for Chicago. And he'll be receiving pitches from a familiar face for Brewer fans, Zach Duke, who will face pinch hitter Gene Segura in the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, real good numbers for Zach Duke. 15th appearance, a 126 earned run average, has not allowed a home run, and opposing hitters are having a difficult time reaching base. He pitched yesterday in Cincinnati.
There's a ground ball to Gordon Beckham at second, and that's out number 1. Yeah, terrific year with the Brewers last year. 74 appearances, 5-1 record. Here's Martin Maldonado.
And it all comes down to changing his arm angle. That's what resurrected his career. And Zach Duke was on his way out a couple years ago, tried to drop down a little bit, and boy, has he been reaping the benefits since.
Now he'll work against Martin Maldonado. The big day yesterday did Maldonado with the 3 hits, including a home run, and the game-winning knock in the 11th inning. And home run was his 2nd of the year. Here's what he did yesterday. Brewers went back-to-back off Zach Rosscuff of the Cubs.
Yeah, that tied it up. Got Matt Garza off the hook. And Herrera would come up right behind him and give him the lead.
Here's the 2-0. Maldonado working him here. Well, the Brewers had an early 6-0 lead. The White Sox with 2 runs in the 5th, 3 in the 7th, 2 more in the 8th. They'll come back to tie the game. It was 6-0 and then 7-2. Maldonado tried to reach via bunt. He did yesterday. Tried to his first at bat. Struck out in the 3rd, grounded to short in the 6th. And works Zach Duke for a walk here in the 8th. Let's check out what's on tap, presented by Miller Lite. Chris Sale, very good pitcher, but look at that ERA. It is bloated early this season, 5.93. Mike Fiers on the mound for the Crew, and we'll get things started 6:30 tomorrow night right here on Fox Sports Wisconsin. Mike Fiers ready to get back at it. Chris Sale will be back into the rotation for the White Sox. He has struggled early. Here's Elian Herrera. He doubled, came around to score in the 4th inning. Popped to short and hit a fly ball to right. Continues to play 3rd base.
Yeah, hit his home run as a right-handed batter yesterday. See if Zach Duke makes a mistake on him. He's probably going to have to hit it out of the ballpark to score Maldonado, though. Not a very fast base runner. Now you wonder if Maldi gets to second base if they pinch run for him.
I haven't seen Chris Davis. He would be available. There's a fly ball hit back into left field, and that is gone.
told you he hit the ball out of the ballpark.
How about that kid? That away. Boy, oh boy, talking about filling in for Ramirez, huh?
Wow.
Bottom of the order, strikes again. And Herrera again. Herrera, Maldonado. That's a good combination the last couple of days. And no doubter out there to left.
My goodness. And that's your Badger Mutual Insurance run of the game, which gives the Brewers a 2-run lead. 2-run bomb from Elian Herrera. Second home run in as many games, his third of the year. Here's Hector Gomez.
I think that back of Aramis Ramirez is feeling better every day.
Yeah, he goes, hey, Skip, I'm good.
I'm ready.
I can pinch run if you need me tonight.
Yeah, good for
Gomez
him.
gets
Good
on.
for Herrera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Hard worker, boy.
Swing and a miss. It's out number 2. Oh, Zach Duke gets victimized here in the 8th inning.
First home run he's given up this year.
That scoreless streak, 9 games, 10 innings. But the Brewers snap it tonight. Well, Chris Davis will come on. He'll pinch hit. He had a good series against the Cubs. So those first 2 games as Francisco Rodriguez getting himself ready for the 9th. Davis's average up to 252. He went into the weekend with it sitting at 209. And there's a fly ball deep left field, and that is gone. Wow. Hello, slide. Chris Davis destroys the pitch, and it's a 3-run lead.
Hey, boy, landing area for Bernie down there, and boy, oh boy, was that ball stroked. Goodness gracious. Well, Brewers jump off the mat after blowing a 6-run lead, and now Zach Duke's given up 2 home runs this year, and there it is. Watch where this baby lands. Look out.
My goodness. 2 home runs off Zach Duke here in the bottom of the 8th inning. As the Brewers, after giving up a 6-run lead, jump on the White Sox left-hander, and the Brewers lead 10-7. Herrera. Chris Davis goes solo. And the Brewers still hitting as Hector Noesi moves from starter to the bullpen here.
Yeah, first appearance out of the bullpen. He's been getting roughed up a bit, but he does strike out some batters, mixes it up pretty good. 0-3 with a 6 earned run average.
And here's Gerardo Parra. And this inning started on a ground ball off the bat of Gene Segura. Maldonado worked Duke for a walk, and then Elian Herrera a 2-run blast. Pinch hitter Chris Davis a moment ago with a solo shot.
This is like the old slugfest we used to have with the White Sox back in the 80s.
Yeah, they were fun. And this has become fun again.
Yeah. The only thing missing is the bench clearing brawls. There was no love lost between the two teams, Brewers, White Sox.
There were some good ones, right?
Yes, sir.
Nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned rivalry. And there is a liner that is snagged by Ramirez, but it's a big 8th inning for the Brew Crew. Home run power again. Herrera goes downtown, a 2-run homer. Brewers lead 10-7. Book your stay now. Big bottom of the 8th for the Brew Crew. 10-7. Brewers lead the White Sox as we move on to the 9th inning. And there are your substitutions. Hector Gomez moves over to second. Gene Segura to pinch hitter in the bottom of the 8th. He'll stay in at short. And Francisco Rodriguez looking to finish this one off.
Yeah, pitched yesterday against the Cubs. Tossed a 3-up, 3-down 9th inning in a tie game. Doing a couple of strikeouts, has 16 strikeouts in just 12 innings of work this year.
He'll face Jose Abreu to begin the 9th inning. Quite the game tonight. Brewers inflicting early damage on Jeff Samardzija at 6-0, led 7-2. White Sox tied the game. A couple of runs in the top of the 8th, and the Brewers put 3 on the board in the bottom of the inning. 2-run shot from Elian Herrera, solo homer Chris Davis, and Abreu with a base hit to center to begin the 9th. The work is far from complete here for Milwaukee.
Yeah, getting on top of a high fastball. K-Rod doesn't throw hard anymore. 89, 91 miles an hour. Trying to sneak a fastball by him here, and Abreu says nothing doing. Able to get the bat head out on it.
A 3-hit night for Abreu, and now here's Avi Garcia. He is hitless in 4 trips. White Sox now with 14 hits. They have stranded 7. That hit the Crew 14-10. The Brewers lead on the big board. And Rodriguez trying to keep it that way. Out in front and behind 0-2.
That was that high changeup that Garcia tried to swing at about neck high.
Two strikes and nothing to Avi Garcia. Mentioned he's hitless tonight, but still a .315 batting average to lead the way for this White Sox team. A shortened season last year, an injury early, diving for a ball. Suffered a torn labrum. He's out from that early portion of April until the middle of August. Ground ball to short. There's one. And the turn. There's 2. Double play. 6-4-3.
Yep, third of the night for the Brewers. K-Rod able to get that pitch down in the strike zone, and a room service double play for the Brew Crew. Yep, 3 hopper to Segura, and no chance they're not going to turn that one. Gets him easily at first.
So the Brewers an out away from taking this series opener. Here's Connor Gillespie with the 14 hits the White Sox have. He's chipped in 2. Back and forth game with momentum swings, but the Brewers with 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th. That's the difference right now. Home run power back for the Crew. Going in the season, they were few and far between, but that has changed. Gomez early, first inning, a 2-run homer, and then a couple of more bombs in the bottom of the 8th. Figure the home runs from Gomez and Davis think okay. But Elian Herrera with a couple of home runs in the last couple of ball games. He is really playing well, and now you see him moving over to the right field side of the bag at second.
And not just swinging the bat well, he's played a very good third base.
Yes, he has. Hit a couple of tough plays tonight. So the shift is on for Gillespie. Rodriguez ready with a 1-1. Bouncing ball, and there's Herrera, and that's the game. Nicely done. Francisco Rodriguez finishes it off, as does Elian Herrera. Big blast again from Herrera, helping lead the Brewers to victory.
Yeah, 2 teams going in pretty good direction.